Then there is persuasion by stealth. Your words accelerates trust faster than text. Tone, cadence, and story bypass the rational mind and go straight into the emotional centers. Speaking is stealth mode for influence. Every time you speak, you open doors you couldn't predict. Invitations, collaborations, partnerships, and stages emerge not because you asked, but because your voice pulled them towards you. The Hormozi's $100 million launch was not a victory of gimmicks. It was a culmination of years of compounding spoken word content. But here's the truth. Hey there, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm going to do a breakdown of the recent Hormozi $100 million launch. And can I just point out in one moment exactly what is genius about that name of that book that was at the center of this launch? I'm going to do a breakdown on this because what I've discovered by watching the internet almost break with people literally going absolutely bonkers over the success of this launch, what I want to actually break down for you is that most people have missed what the true flex was. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about with the Hormozi $100 million launch, then stay tuned because I'm going to walk you through it. But I also want you to understand that what most people are buying into, repeating, discussing, and analyzing is 100% missing the mark. Is that validated, analyzed research? Absolutely not. But it's my very clear perspective, and I want to walk you through why. So last month in August 2025, Alex and Layla Hormozi executed what has been called the most successful book launch in modern history. They live streamed an event for 9 hours for $100 million money models, and they generated tens of millions of dollars in sales on that day. And by all reports, there's been a further tens of millions in revenue in the days since the event went live. Now, one of the things before we even go any further, for those people who wonder how important positioning is and how important names are, Alex and Layla Hormozi just proved it. Their book is called $100 Million Money Models. And so every single thing that talks about it talks about $100 million in the title. So even if they had not made $100 million revenue with this launch, everything about them would still legitimately say $100 million as the lead. Absolute pure genius. But that's actually not where the total genius lies. Now, marketers, entrepreneurs, coaches everywhere rush to dissect what went down. There was lots of praise for stacked bonuses, the scarcity tactics, which I'm not a fan of, the donation gimmicks that happened, what the strategy actually was behind it. There's been mastermind groups forming right in front of my eyes, specifically created to decode his slides and take the lessons from his slide deck into what these people are going to do next. There were YouTube videos sprouting everywhere with titles like Why I Bought Alex's Course. And this is where a little bit of brand destruction comes in for me, because I watched global coaches that I have had so much time for so long, literally post celebrating that they had actually just backed themselves to spend $24,000 or whatever the upper limit was on Alex Hormozi's coaching program to give them access, and their positioning, and this is from some really well-respected, experienced coaches, their positioning was, and that's why you should work with me, because I can get you access to the very strategies from Alex Hormozi, who did the $100 million launch. Newsflash, access to the person interpreting Alex Hormozi's launches and strategies. You know, this can only be described as a feeding frenzy, right? And I think that was the intention. And I understand that this is a Speaking Driven Business podcast, and I promise that I'm going to get you there in just a moment. Because on the flip side of the people almost fangirling and fanboying and fan-manning and all the rest of it over the Hormozi launch and everything that it meant and joining his mastermind and what that means for their clients and everything like that, we then had the polar opposite. We had people with the contrarian take. Alex who? And when I looked at that, I thought interesting because trust me, in my world, there's a lot of people who are genuinely saying Alex who. But if you're a coach, a creator, a marketer of any description in that space, if you're sitting there saying Alex who with a smug smile on your face and a pina colada in your hand, that is what I can only describe as some sort of perverse form of superiority signaling. But everything that I've seen online has missed the true commercial insight available to every single one of you. The Hormozi's dominance did not come from tactics. It did not come from how they structured their live event on the day. It did not come from their scarcity tactics. It did not come from their slide decks. All of you who are deconstructing, analyzing, and repurposing everything that they did have missed the true flex, because their dominance came from years and years and years of speaking, of spoken word content online and in person that cultivated an audience that was so bonded and so primed that the stellar success of the launch was actually almost an inevitability. And this is what I keep saying is being missed. The true flex is not the mechanics. Dissecting the slide decks will not help you. Being in the proximity of the Hormozis won't be a guarantee of propelling you, because their true flex was speaking. So, a bit of detail. For those who've not been touched by the Hormozi zeitgeist, let's provide some context for what truly was a remarkable launch that does deserve all the superlatives being thrown around the internet like paper confetti at a 1980s wedding. The event itself was a 9-hour live stream launch that blended education with entertainment. It was actually masterful. The offer was books and playbooks and AI assistance and donate 200 books mechanisms. The result, millions of copies sold, nearly $100 million in revenue on the day, and global headlines. If you're in their space, the internet literally melted down. The perception celebrated it as a world record-breaking launch and the definitive playbook for ambitious entrepreneurs. Businesses, consultants, coaches, advisors all started scrambling immediately to copy the moves. But copying tactics without the engine is like installing a rocket without fuel. The Hormozis were not selling to strangers. People didn't just suddenly land in their universe. The Hormozis have spent years activating a movement. It's a movement which has been carefully cultivated for years through, firstly, consistency of presence. Daily, often multiple times a day, spoken word content across YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, and in podcasts direct to their community and their people. The second thing they focused on was trust before transaction. They had years of frameworks, playbooks, tactics, strategies, and insights being given away for free. And the third thing was building a shared language. There's a shared shorthand in their language, there's memes, and there's recurring stories that turned followers into insiders and created this really intense sense of belonging. And the final and fourth thing that they focused in on was identity alignment. Audiences did not just consume their content, they identified as being part of a greater tribe, which means this was not an audience. This has become a tribe with belonging at stake. The overlooked catalyst was actually not just Alex's frameworks, but the dialogue, the conversations, the spoken word content, expressed most visibly in Alex and Layla, but representing a much larger principle. And this is what I want you to take away. There is a compounding power of words in a conversation that is led by you. It creates a parasocial depth. And this happens when audience don't see just polished thought leadership. They watch the Hormozis talking, debating, reflecting, disagreeing, laughing. And this created an intimacy far deeper than one-way broadcasts, which is kind of ironic considering what I'm doing right now. They've built a really strong archetypal balance. So Alex embodies the strategist, frameworks, ambition, relentless drive, whilst Leela embodies the operator, grounded, pragmatic, incredibly steady. And this contrast did not diminish either of them. It amplified their joint credibility. Together, they have become an entire system. And for those of us working alone or with small teams, the lesson is not about marriage, but it's about the multiplication of voice. A multiplication which can be achieved through collaborators, collaborators, through clients, or even Q&A, or running your own podcast. But how are you multiplying your spoken word content? And then there was authenticity through words. Their unpolished, unscripted speaking created resonance that no copywriter could script across socials. Followers didn't just consume their content, they connected deeply with the Hormozis themselves. And identity projection. For people with ambition, for people striving, the Hormozi's voices represented ambition in action. This is what it looks like to win. And that projection gave followers a total sense of belonging. And it is this spoken word identity, not the scarcity tricks, that created the cult-like following. Now, since the launch, the internet has flooded with attempts to replicate or decode. Why I bought Alex's course, as I mentioned before, where creators position access to him as the reason for enrollment, as do coaches, as do mentors, as do so many people. I can't believe how many people are doing this. There was the creation of mastermind groups, sharing his slides, notes, cleaning up the frameworks, decoding and analyzing line by line, slide by slide. And this incredible level of obsessive cult-like behavior, with some adopting phrases like Alex Who to signal superiority, while others obsessively script their video intros now to mimic his cadence. But here's the truth. Out of all of that, out of all the tactics we're seeing, out of all the conversations and discussions we're seeing, there's something fundamental that you need to understand. I'm going to break it down in 3 ways. The first is that access does not equal identity. Slides, scripts, and notes can be studied, but they don't create belonging. The Hormozi's audience didn't just want tactics. They wanted to know that they were part of the Hormozi's inner circle. The second thing is this: mechanics without a moat is hollow. Scarcity timers and donation hacks only accelerate if they've already been fueled by years of spoken word resonance. On their own, they feel empty and manipulative. And fandom doesn't equal audience. Or, the way I also like to say it, fans won't write checks. Right? People who join these groups often remain spectators and not buyers. Without trust built through spoken word, replication stays surface level. You cannot replicate the build that they did unless you're willing to do the reps that they did. And here's the challenge in the market right now. Copycats are confusing mechanics for the engine, not realizing that the engine was spoken word content and the engine was speaking. The Hormozi's relentless spoken word creation created 3 compounding commercial advantages that I bet you haven't even thought about. The first one is resonance. And anyone who knows me knows how passionate I am about moments of resonance. The first thing, as I said, is resonance. Their words transform frameworks into emotional truths for people. The second thing is they created relationship. Speaking daily created intimacy at scale, turning followers into fans, into insiders. And their reach was phenomenal. Spoken content spreads further, faster, and more authentically than any single advertising campaign. Together, these 3 things enabled the Hormozis to create an audience moat, a distribution advantage that money simply cannot buy. The lesson of the launch is not that you need a 9-hour live stream or a stack of bonuses or scarcity tactics. The lesson is this: words create your moat. The willingness to speak consistently, vulnerably, and insightfully creates a compounding trust account that no funnel can replicate. Audience is absolutely your strategy. Metrics don't matter if there is no resonance. Belonging and identity are actually the drivers of scale. And if you're not sure about this, just think about Apple. And the third, dialogue, conversation, words drive identity. Whether through partners, collaborators, clients, or simply your own Q&A style, voice in conversation humanizes expertise and builds intimacy at scale. And here's the deeper truth. Speaking is not just speaking. Most experts still see speaking as something you do once a year at a podium or on major stages or from huge platforms with 500, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 people. And that mindset is obsolete. Speaking today is amplification beyond the stage. It's every podcast, live stream, keynote, LinkedIn video, client workshop. They're all stages. Your spoken word multiplies across platforms, creating dozens of touch points from a single moment. This is exactly what's happening right here in this podcast. We hear from people almost every single day about what they've just listened to, what's blown their mind, what they're adopting, what they're implementing, and what they're taking back into their world. Then there is persuasion almost by stealth. Speaking your words accelerate trust farther than, and then there is persuasion by stealth. Your words, your spoken word content you're speaking accelerates trust faster than text because tone, cadence, and story bypass the rational mind and go straight into the emotional centers. Speaking is stealth mode for influence. Your ability to persuade expands without audiences even understanding it. And then there's revealing of possibilities. And this is a big one. Every time you speak, you open doors you couldn't predict. Invitations, collaborations, partnerships, and stages emerge not because you asked, but because your voice pulled them towards you. When you learn to speak consistently and with resonance, you activate an entire ecosystem of influence and persuasion like no other. The Hormozi's $100 million launch was not a victory of gimmicks. It was not a result of tactic stacking. And it definitely wasn't because of how they managed their slide deck. It was a culmination of years of compounding spoken word content. See, here's the thing. Tactics explain the speed. Audience explains the scale. But it's spoken word content that explains the audience. And this is a commercial reality. Speaking is not simply about delivering a keynote or a presentation at a networking event or from a main stage or securing that great conference. Spoken word content, your speaking, is the most powerful accelerant for influence, persuasion, and growth in today's market. The stage is every platform. The microphone is every opportunity you have to share. And the act of speaking is more than communication. It is identity building, trust creating, possibility revealing work. Your spoken word content is the stealth operating system of influence. It amplifies authority, it accelerates persuasion, and it reveals opportunity that you did not even know existed. And this is why it is not just a skill, it is your ultimate edge. Speaking is the imperative for every expert and entrepreneur who wants to lead. And in August 2025, the Hormozis proved that to be true.